Now, how could this mind be so powerful? How? Let's look at one or two examples, true stories, to illustrate the power of your own mind. There was this case, I'm going to use some medical examples. There was this case of a man named Mr. Wright. He wasn't always right, it's W-R-I-G-H-T, Mr. Wright. So Mr. Wright he had advanced cancer, lymphosarcoma. So he had tumors all about his body. His chest, his abdomen, groin, legs, tumors everywhere, swelling up. Cancer is uncontrolled growth of cells. So you have these tumors all over. They were growing all over his body. All the treatments had failed. Nothing was working. His chest was filling up with fluid, and it had to be drained out every day for him just to breathe. The doctors didn't expect him to last 1 week. But this man, Mr. Wright, as is documented in medical journals, he desperately wanted to live. And he came across a new drug that he saw described, and I wouldn't dare to pronounce it, Cryobiosine. Let's call it the drug, right? A particular drug. So he came across this drug, and he was convinced that this drug could help him. And he begged the doctor, I need you to treat me with this drug. But the problem was that this drug was only offered in specialized clinical trials. And he didn't fit the criteria to get this drug. He was too sick to qualify. The drug was for people who was going to last 3 months or more. This fella might, die in a week. So this Mr. Wright didn't give up. He bothered the doctor. He bothered him. He harassed him. And eventually the doctor gave in. And one day he got the drug and he injected this man with it. This drug. Okay? To his utter shock and surprise, on the Monday, the next Monday, so let's say he gave it to him on a Friday, 2-3 days after, the Monday, this doctor found that this man was up and walking about. He looked at the tumor masses everywhere, and they were starting to shrink. They were about half the size. So this looked like a miracle drug. And a very short while after, all the tumors were gone, and he was able to leave the hospital. Now, devotees, keep in mind, this is a true story I'm telling you. It's a true story. So he left the hospital apparently cancer-free. Now, he was, of course, very happy. Now, what happened in 1 or 2 months' time, in the news, they began to report that this drug doesn't seem to be very effective. They did large clinical trials, and in large numbers of people, it seemed that this drug didn't work. This man, Mr. Wright, who tried to keep on top of this drug, look at what happens to it, he read this thing. And when he saw that, he felt very, very depressed. And you know what happened? Slowly, right afterward, his cancer came back. So he read that this drug might not be effective, and the tumors started to appear again. So he went back to the doctor, and this doctor wanted to get, this patient better. So he decided to do a little trick on him, to get sneaky. So he said to this Mr. Wright, that drug we used before, there was a little problem with the shipping. It wasn't good. But I am getting the pure thing now. The pure distilled drug to give to you. And this will clearly work. It's concentrated. So he injected it to him. Now, of course, he's lying, right? The doctor was lying. Nothing was done. He just told the man this. He injected him again, and lo and behold, he injected him with distilled water now, maybe sugar water. It's like a placebo. Lo and behold, tumors went away again. Just like that. They started to disappear. Because he believed that the drug was powerful. Then what happened? The next 2 months went by, and then finally the AMA, American Medical Association, announced that nationwide, this study of this drug, it showed that this drug was totally worthless. It had no effect on anybody. They were recalling the drug. Mr. Wright read this and he lost all faith in the treatment that he was having. His cancer came right back and he died 2 days later. Again, this is a true story. How is it that this man was just reading about this drug? If he thought it could help him, it helped him. Then he thought, it's no good. Cancer came back. Then he thought, he read some more and then it went away again. So his disease is responding or was responding to what he read, what his mind was saying. And there are quite a few other cases. There's another example of this man, and he was a psychiatric patient. So he had multiple personality disorder. Okay? So he had multiple personalities living within him. Quite interesting. Now, interestingly, one of his personalities was diabetic. The other personality was not. Now look at this. When this person had the diabetic personality, the blood sugar would go right up. And all of his vitals would reflect that of a diabetic. When he shifted into the other personality, the alter ego, he was back to normal. Nothing, no diabetes. Just by shifting personality like this within his own head, he appeared to be diabetic, he appeared to be normal. Multiple personalities. Let me give you one last example of this. There was a man who was living in the US and he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. He had 9 months to live. So he went to 9 different doctors and they all offer this aggressive form of treatment, chemotherapy and all of these drugs and whatnot. So he thought, all of this wouldn't save my life really. I'll just suffer more and more. So what I'll do, I'll save the money from all of that, decline this treatment and move back with my wife. He was from Greece, a Greek island. A nice, quiet Greek island. Okay? Just like Trinidad. So he moved back and, he was thinking, I will die there. I'll be buried where all my ancestors are buried. I'll be quite comfortable. So he and his wife moved into a small little house on a vineyard. And he went back to live with his elderly parents who were there. So the family was around. He reconnected with his faith. He began to practice his religion, whatever it was. When his friends found out that he was back home, they showed up with, wine and books and, games to play. And they spent a lot of time with him to entertain him, to keep him company. He started a garden. He planted vegetables, basked in the sunshine, enjoy the sea air, the sea environment, the seaside. And he relished his love for his wife. He used to ignore her all the time, but he found a newfound love for her. 6 months passed in this way, and not only he didn't die, but he was feeling better. He started working more in the vineyard, making himself useful, and then he, played dominoes with his friends. He took a lot of naps during the day. He rarely ever looked at a watch. A clock, a phone, a schedule, these things didn't run his life. He ran his life. He spent a lot of time outdoors. And so he continued for 25 years. Remember the diagnosis with terminal lung cancer and 9 doctors. After this 25 years, he went back to the States to ask his doctors, investigate me. What has happened? How come this thing went away like this? And you know what happened? When he went back to the States, all 9 of the doctors had died. He outlived all of them. So the point is that I'm trying to make, this is the power of belief. The power of belief. It's what I said at the beginning. Mana eva manushyanam. What we have to realize, devotees, is that we are creating everything. We create the traps and we create the escape from the traps. Okay? So, I hope these stories impacted upon you, true stories, the power of your own mind. If you have a problem, you have an illness, The solution for it is not running behind doctors everywhere. I went through this myself and I could tell you, you know. You know what the expert is? An expert is not the person who knows everything, you know. An expert is the person who made all the mistakes. That's an expert. If you're an alcoholic, you want somebody who never drank rum in their whole life to come and lecture you? Or you want to hear from somebody who suffered, overcame that, and you remain alcohol free for a while? Which one would you choose? So if you want to talk anxiety, depression, mental things, going by doctors, running here and there, you have to talk to somebody who's had that experience, not somebody who doesn't know what it is like. You see? So when you go through all of these things, then you have a deep understanding of what it is. And then you can guide accordingly. That is an expert. Not someone who reads a book and just want to tell you whatever comes to mind. That is not an expert. So, belief. Whatever you believe, you make that into your reality. If you believe God could appear before you now, and you really believe it, it will happen. If you believe it's going to take you lifetimes to see God, and you have to put in so much effort, that is also going to happen. You understand what I'm saying? But the point is that belief, right? That intense desire for something to happen, you have to believe it. And I think in most cases what happens is that we don't really believe 100%. We always have this doubting mind. So this is the first thing, power of belief.